everybody, and welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy Filangieri. I'm David Friedman, and I want to thank you for coming along this ride with us. How are we doing today, Coach?
Doing good today, Dave. Fall is upon us. We're into the fall season, keeping me busy. Unlike the summer where I really wasn't doing much, now it's back to the pretty much everyday grind, and loving every minute of it.
I was going to say, so you're back in your happy place.
Yeah, I mean, back together with the coaching staff at the high school, and big squad for the fall. I believe we're carrying 31 players. That will get whittled down because at the end of the fall, this is where the varsity team is selected.
Now, as a private school, is this sort of by invite only, or can anybody that's at the school just show up and start practicing with you?
Well, it's sophomores, juniors, and seniors that all played in the program in the spring. Okay, so coach will bring them in. We'll work them out for 3 days. I say work them out. It's actually a tryout, and it's done in a way that certain sophomores are selected to play in the fall, and other sophomores that don't make the fall team kind of get I don't want to say a talking to, but they sit with the coach, and the coach explains to them that, look, we had you here. We like what we see. You're definitely going to be on the JV team in the spring. However, we feel that right now you're going to need another year before you're ready for varsity level baseball.
All right, so it is really by invite and just to get to that spot, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is. It's not open to the whole school. Let's put it to you that way.
Right. Okay. For public schools, it's obviously if you want to sign up, you sign up and you come and you do your tryouts and all that. And I don't know how many schools do their tryouts in the fall like that. It's obviously there's pluses and minuses to doing something like that. Just kids that obviously at that age, there's a lot of opportunity for growth and maturity in a short 3 or 4 month span. But at the end of the day, I'm sure if one of your sophomores all of a sudden come, February is put on a couple inches and 20 pounds of muscle, I'm sure it's not like, oh, yeah, there's no way we're taking him up on varsity. And, I'm sure the opportunity is still there.
Well, yeah, but it's there in a little bit of a roundabout way, we'll say, okay, because I doubt very much that if that happened, that right off the bat in the spring, they would just say, you're on the varsity team. I doubt that very much. I've never seen that happen before. But what I would say is he would play on the JV team, and if he excelled that much and there was a need, they would pull him up early to the varsity team.
Right. Do you, I mean, we've talked a bunch. I don't think this has ever come up. Have you, I want to say, lost players to the varsity team? I mean, obviously at the end of the year for playoffs, I'm sure, but that doesn't really matter to you. But like during the season, have you had any players pulled up?
Never.
Okay. And then what is it? This is going to be your 6th year?
Yeah, I'm going into my 6th year, yes.
Okay. Interesting. That seems, I don't know, odds wise, that just seems improbable. Like there wasn't a couple of injuries and things like that. But then again, maybe with the size of the squads you guys have, it's not as much of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you hit the nail right on the head there. That because of the size of the squad, and I can be honest with you, as long as I've been there, I've only known 2 sophomores ever to be on varsity. There's never, there was one a couple of years ago. He's graduated now, and then there's one on now who is a junior. So he played varsity last year as a sophomore. But again, that's the only 2 times since I've been in it has actually been a sophomore on varsity.
All right. Gotcha. And again, the differences between our schools, we also don't have a freshman program. So that's wildly different since our freshmen and sophomores and a couple of juniors all have to feed our JV team. Then again, that's wildly different why our squad is the size it was. If we had a freshman program, then obviously you're talking about a lot more sophomores just being on the one squad than what you guys have. So what's your initial reaction? So you've had 2 weeks of practices now, I think. So what's your initial thoughts on the team? Any let me say this, any real good surprises? Now, you didn't see these kids all summer. Anybody that has really knocked your socks off in terms of development this summer?
No, not really. I mean, it's pretty much is what I thought it would be. And this year is a little different because I want to say, and I don't know why this is, but it seems like this is the first year where I'm helping out with the fall where all of those players that are on the field played for me at one time. I think the COVID year kind of screwed everything up where I didn't, I've never been in this situation before. So this is the first time where I actually know what all of the players' pros and cons are. So I won't say that, no, there's nobody that has really where I said, wow, this is different from what I saw in the past.
Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Well, but that's what this next month or two is for, right? Is to seeing that development and see if these kids can make a big jump between what they did last year and the spring season anyway. So it should all be about development, right?
Yeah. And it's definitely is. And, some of the interesting things that I'm noticing, I mean, so kind of to your point, do I see any differences in people? There's stuff that I do see that I wasn't able to see in the spring are the kids who played freshmen in the spring who are now sophomores. And that's something that I'm paying close attention to for obvious reasons. And there are some kids on that team that really, I would say at this point, have a shot at making the varsity team. So making that jump from freshman right to varsity. Although I'm looking at it like, trying to downplay it and say you don't need him. He's not ready. I want him to play on my team, obviously. But, hey, if the kid is good enough and he can make varsity, that's a great thing.
Right. Yeah, that becomes a tough battling that selfishness of I want my team to be good versus that's kind of the danger of being a not mid-level, but mid-grade coach between the freshman and the varsity team. Is obviously you want the varsity team. Everybody wants the varsity team to excel, but hey, let's see if we can get some extra W's under our belt as well.
Yeah, it is.
So, but then it becomes all about opportunity. If the kid does make varsity, if he's not a starter, how is that really helping him as opposed to being able to play every day? Almost never sit if he stays down on the JV. That's the age-old quandary that we run into.
Right. And we do have one player that played for me as a freshman last year, so sophomore this year, and there's no doubt he is playing varsity this coming year. He will not stay with me for 2 years. And there's another kid that is a pitcher who played on a freshman team that it was funny because we were discussing him yesterday, and I said to, because the varsity coach said to me, he's got a really good shot at making the varsity program. And I said, look, why don't we leave him on JV for a little while? If there's a need at varsity, you can always pull him up. Okay. But Let's start him out at JV. You never know. You might need him. You might not need him.
Right. Yeah. At least get me a couple games. Obviously he'll be starting opening day because you don't know how long you're going to have him.
Right. Exactly.
So, and when he goes no hitter through 6, that's a pretty good sign you ain't going to have him for long.
Exactly.
But, yeah. All right, well, that's cool. Oh, and you're back to doing it. So you're enjoying it. The time away from coaching didn't diminish your desire to be out there with the kids?
No, it kind of goes back to everything I say about being a multi-sport athlete where I want kids to get away from the game, clear your head, and come back fresh. I feel like I'm fresh. In the fall, in the past, I mean, I'll be honest, I was exhausted going into the fall. It was a grind. You start in March, high school season all the way through to May. Then we started, the very next week, traveling all summer long with a travel team, then go right into the fall. Maybe if I didn't have a full-time job, it might be a little different, but it gets tiring.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking with somebody at work who has very young son. I think he's just turned 5, and he was talking about trying to get him involved in something, and they were looking at like one of the martial arts. And I said, my kids did that or my oldest did that. My younger one had no interest in it when he was very young. I said the tough thing about that is there's no season, as opposed to most sports. And then immediately I just said, I guess there's really no season with baseball anymore either. We're basically playing 11 months out of the year now. So I guess that's not that big of a difference. Whereas 15 years ago when my kid was that age, or 17 years ago, there was a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but you know, if I had my way, you wouldn't be playing baseball 11 months out of the year.
Right. Well, that's a whole different topic. So let's jump in. Let's talk about our special guest of the week. We have Coach Clay Cox. He is one of the top junior college coaches in the country. He's down at Paris Junior College. That's in Paris, Texas. Not a lot of croissants down there, so don't get confused on the location. He has been there for 7 years already, and he has just done an amazing job with that squad.
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, here's another coach, a lot of respect for. I've listened to him talk many times. I've read a lot of things about him, and again, piqued my interest, and I thought he'd be a good guest to share, you know, what makes him so successful as a coach. And reached out to him, and he agreed to come on the show, and I can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah, this is another show that I wasn't able to make it to, but I'm very much looking forward to what he has to say with all the accomplishments that he and his players have had. Bound to be just full of useful information. So without further ado, let's get started with Clay Cox.
Okay, so today on our show we have the head coach of Paris Junior College in Paris, Texas, Clay Cox. Welcome to the show, Coach.
I appreciate you having me today.
Oh, it's a thrill for me. I've been following you for quite a few years. I would say probably ever since you were hired at Paris. And that was, when was that? That was in 2016, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I actually came in 15, spent a year as the assistant, and then I took over as the head coach in 2016. Correct.
Okay. And just so everybody out there knows, Paris Junior College is an NJCAA Division I school, which is the National Junior College Athletic Association. So 2022 Region 14 North Coach of the Year, as well as the Region 14 Regional Coach of the Year.
That's not me, though. That's a testament to our guys and the what they did on the field that year. You know, that's an award we don't get without what they do between the lines. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a coaching staff award. You know, what my pitching coach and recruiting coordinator does, he deserves more credit than I do. So like I say all the time, I was just along for the ride.
Well,
but it was a great year.
Well, I get the point about being along for the ride, but if the guy at the top is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, then a lot of these things don't happen. You know, Coach, some of these numbers are really incredible. So since 2016, you've had 26 all-conference selections, 11 all-region selections, 111 academic All-Americans, and you finished runner-up nationally in Team GPA for 4 of the last 5 years out of 388 junior college baseball programs. You know, that really says a lot.
It does, you know, and actually that bio is not quite completely updated. This year, after chasing it for 8 years, we were crowned the National Junior College Athletic Association National Academic Team of the Year for baseball. We had the Ties Team GPA in junior college baseball at over 400 teams with a 3.88. And so, you know, it's something that we talk about quite a bit. We want to win in everything we do. Competition breeds success. And, you know, we're trying to set these young men up for life. And as much as we want to build better ball players, we want to build better young men. And so, you know, we are firm believers that winning is a byproduct. And so if we take care of the little things, the big things like winning are going to take care of themselves. And so, you know, it's one of those things that we've been chasing that, and we talk about it from day one that, you know, we're here to get a degree as much as we are play baseball. And so our guys know that we take pride in that. And they were, you know, it was a long time coming, and we finally upended Daytona State, who they had won it, I think, 11 years in a row. And so it was a good way to top off our year. You know, we finished, we won a regional championship this year. We played in a super regional to go to the World Series. We finished the year top 20 in the country in the final NJCAA rankings, and we were the National Academic Team of the Year. So I think it was a testament for us to be able to say, hey, you can win on the field and you can be good in the classroom. You don't have to have one or the other. And so that's what we've been trying to prove, and I think we did that this year.
Yeah, I think that says a lot, because us guys down at the lower levels, we preach this all the time about your academics, how important they are. And in all honesty, what really matters is how you do academically, because right off the bat, if you don't do well academically in high school, then you're not going to be able to get into the school that you want to go to possibly play baseball. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I want people to understand that, yes, academics always has to be first.
It does, you know, and we talk about it to all our recruits and all our players that are here, that 9 times out of 10, if you leave junior college with a 3.0 or better, you're going to get academic money stacked on top of your athletic money. You know, we've got plenty of guys that have gone on to the 4-year level, and they're on full rides essentially because of their academics and their athletics. You know, and a lot of people will sit there and say, there's no such thing as a full ride at Division I and this and that, and there may not be athletically very often, but you know, you have ways to do it in other ways, and that's one of the things that we preach is, you know, that's all the money you spend on travel ball, all the money you spend on gear, all those things, you know, it's at least a little bit of return on investment if you'll handle your grades and you can get some academic money on top of the athletic.
Absolutely. So one of the things that gets me about junior colleges, and I want to tell you something, first and foremost, I am a big proponent of players going to junior college to start their college careers. But one of the things that kind of jumps out at me is my situation as a JV coach for a high school and a junior college coach's role. They're kind of similar because you only see your players 1 to 2 years.
That's one of the hardest parts about junior college, especially when it comes to establishing and retaining culture, right, is you're turning over pretty much half your roster every year. Like you're talking about at the JV level, right? Those guys are there for a year, maybe 2, and then they're moving on up to varsity. And so very similar in that aspect for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I find it to be very challenging because, like you said, you're trying to set a culture. For the most part, a lot of these players come from all different programs, we'll say, and one program's culture may be different from another to another. We're trying to unify all of that. And again, in a year or 2, it's very difficult to do, and then hand them off to the varsity coach. And then, you know, he'll continue, obviously, but we need to set that foundation. The other thing, too, is that typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but junior college coaching staff will tend to be smaller than, say, like a 4-year school.
Very much so. You know, now there's some junior colleges. We're in one of the toughest regions in the country down here in Region 14, and then Region 5 in West Texas and New Mexico is obviously another really talented region. And then you talk about Florida and the Midwest and those places. But we're in one of the toughest regions in the country. I would say that, you know, there's a couple staffs that they're very fortunate to have a boatload of guys on staff. For me here at Paris, it's myself and my pitching coach, who's my recruiting coordinator as well. There's 2 of us. And so we've got our work cut out for us, you know, and that's one of the reasons that we keep our roster size lower than a lot of junior colleges is that, you know, we need to have a manageable roster size to be able to give those players the attention they need individually for player development. And so it's tough, right? I mean, we're taking care of the field. We're you know, study hall, weight room, where we're practicing. And so to do that with 2 guys, we spend a lot of time together. It's a testament to, you know, I say it all the time, you're only as good as the people you're around and the people you hire. And I'm very fortunate with Coach Prevette, Coach Boone, our pitching coach, recruiting coordinator. He's done a hell of a job for us going into our 3rd year together. And so, but yeah, it's a small staff and it's a lot of work. You know, I talk about it all the time. A lot of people like to say, you know, if you love it, it's not a grind. Junior college is a grind. It's an absolute grind, but you grind because you love it. And that's both on the player side of it and on the coach's side of it. And so, you know, where you're talking about getting these guys for only a year or 2, for us, you know, it's tough, right? Because the 4 years they're recruiting their guys. For a junior college, you're recruiting your guys to come in there and help you win and keep your culture. And then you're also having to get your guys recruited to the 4-year school. So you're really burning the candle on both ends. And so we're having to recruit while we get our guys recruited. So there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of hours, but typically, yeah, your staffs are a little bit smaller.
Now, you said you carry a smaller roster. How many do you carry?
We cap out at 35. I would tell you that we're usually more in that 30 to 33 range in the fall, but we hard cap our roster at 35. And there's a lot of junior colleges that bring in more. But that for us, again, that's where we feel comfortable. That's where we feel like is our kind of niche and our honey hole. We have something going that's working really well for us. And so that's about where we sit typically in the fall.
Well, I can tell you that in itself is a challenge, even though as far as the college ranks are concerned, that being a small roster, because I usually carry anywhere from 20 to 25 players, and I'm in the same situation. It's just, me and another coach. And boy, oh boy, I find it hard with 20 to 25. I can't imagine if I had 35. It's difficult.
It is, and it becomes being creative with your practice plans and early work and making sure that each position group is getting what they need individually, making sure that, your hitters are getting the attention they need, your pitchers are getting the attention they need. But again, I think for us, it's been the norm. I've been doing it for, I guess, 9 years now at this level, and it's been two coaches the whole time. And so, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have a plethora of coaches to be able to do with what we need to, but we found what works for us, and we continue to roll with it. And so, it's a challenge in itself for sure.
Right. So when your players first get to campus, your first meeting with your players, you go through some stuff in the classroom. Is that correct?
Do you mean as far as talking about our academics, or as far as classroom when we start to introduce some of our baseball stuff?
Baseball stuff, yeah. When you first present this to your players.
Yeah, so it's more of just a team meeting. We talk about our academics. We talk about our team roles. Everybody kind of introduces themselves, gets to know each other. That's on Saturday. They move in. On Monday, we start our meetings, and we've got our hitters meetings, our pitchers meetings. Infield obviously gets a little bit. They probably sometimes get too much of me. It's kind of my baby, my passion, obviously.
Yes.
And so they get a little bit more. But we start those right out of the gate. And for me, we try to introduce a lot of things before we get on the field. I want these guys to have an understanding of what we're trying to do. A lot of guys, obviously, in today's world are visual learners. And so we try to, hey, this is our catch play. So we're going to show you a video and be able to walk through what we do. So when we go to the field on our first day of catch play, it's not something that's brand new to you. It's something that you've kind of seen and now you've been introduced to. Now we can correct and coach from there. And so we start to introduce a lot of things and just our base, the base things in our offense and what we pride ourselves on, what we're truly trying to do with our offense, those type things, pitching wise, throwing program, our recovery and that stuff. And so we introduced all that early, right out of the gate, and then kind of build upon that once we get onto the field.
Yeah, so when I first found out that you did it this way, and I'm sure there's a lot of other coaches that do it this way, but when I read about you doing it, it kind of jumped out at me because it's something that I can tell you that moving forward, I'm going to adopt. I love the idea of taking the boys, bring them into classroom. Like you said, go through the throwing program, go through prep step stuff, the drills that we're going to do, and show them a video. I love that because we waste a lot of time going out to the field and spending a couple of practices just running through drills and getting the players to understand how to do them correctly.
Yeah, and that's what essentially started all of this for me. I think ABCA Dallas a few years back was when I really kind of brought this to the table. And, for me, we have group me messages for our positions. We have group me messages for our hitters, our pitchers. And so, if we're going to do a new drill infield wise that day, what I'll do is I'll send a video in the group me that morning to the infielders to say, hey, take a look at this. This is the drill we're going to do this afternoon. We're going to implement this. This is why. That way they have a chance to go through and visually see the drill. Because like you're talking about, I think the worst thing we could do, we always talk about this generation, their attention span and those things. Well, I'm an older generation, but my attention span is still the same way. I think that if I'm sitting out there listening to somebody hold a fungo and talk for 10 minutes, I'm probably losing interest if I'm ready to field ground balls, right? And so it eliminated having to go out there, stand, introduce the drill, talk for 10 minutes, and them having lost focus by the time we were getting to the nuts and bolts of it, like you said earlier. And so what that does is now, hey, we can get there, quickly refresh in 30 seconds to a minute of, hey, this is the drill that we thought we showed this morning in the group me message. Let's get into it. And then I can start coaching the finer points of it during the drill, and not having to stand out there and talk and then yell, with a fungo 100 feet away, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what we should be doing. And so it's eliminated a lot of that. It's eliminated a lot of the downtime in practice and those things when we can implement that. And don't get me wrong, we're not perfect with it, but anytime I can get a hold of something and get it to them beforehand, I think it just makes the transition smoother. It makes things run a little better. Like that first infield meeting, I mean, we talked about our ball lanes, we talked about our prep step, and we talked about our catch play, and I'm a firm believer in, prep step is our foundation, right? And if you've got all this money and you're going to, sorry, I'm getting a little into the infield off topic, but if we're going to build, this multi-million-dollar mansion, we got to start with a good foundation. We got to start with a good base. And for me, that's our prep step and our pre-pitch routine. And so, if we build this beautiful mansion, but we have a terrible foundation, it's just going to eventually crumble anyway. And so in order to put ourselves in the best possible scenario to be efficient on the dirt, we have to have a good prep step and pre-pitch routine. And so, we talk about those things in that first meeting. So when we get out there that first week, they have a feel for what we're looking for. And then we can really start to isolate certain points in certain drills.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with you going into the infield stuff because I know that that's your baby, so we might as well roll with it. But the one thing that I did want to highlight was when you said you use the GroupMe app to send video to your players. Again, I love that. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's eliminated a lot of downtime. What it's also done is we try to cultivate a culture within that group that, hey, man, if you see something that you like, send it to the group me. Hey, look at this play that Arenado made last night, or here's a drill that I found. What do you guys think about this? Or sometimes it's, hey, man, look at this, look at this prep step. That's just exactly what we're looking for. And guys start to communicate a little bit in there, and that's what we want. We want guys to be able to bring some ownership to it. I'm a firm believer in kind of what we call the extra tool, and for me, that's self-correction. And when guys can understand what we're doing enough that they can tell me what they did wrong without me having to just feed them that information, then I know we've got it. Right. When we're playing in a fall game and a guy comes off and this is 2 years ago. I can still remember this one. There was a left-handed hitter. He capped a slow roller to third baseman fielded it, took a 4-step pattern, threw it. It was a plus runner. Bang, bang play. Guy was safe. And after the third out, defense comes running off, and I get to him before I can even say anything. He said, I took a 4-step and I should have took a 2-step there. Slap him on the butt and, tell him to go get a bat. And those are the things that when they can realize what they're doing, I think too many times we just say, hey, this is what you did, and they don't necessarily understand. When I like to say, hey, do you know what you did there? And then see if they can give us that answer. At the same time, sometimes we may be wrong. You might not see something that they see there on the field. And hey, man, why did you do this right here? Well, it was a green runner. He hit the ball. He pulled the ball in the hole here last time, so I did this. Okay, yeah, I didn't see that, but maybe you did, or maybe you picked up on something that I didn't in that at bat while you were out there on the field. And so there's plenty of times that guys give me their thought process, and I go, hey, that's a good thought, And I think too many times we constrict our players by just telling them what we think or we know and not getting their input, not letting them have ownership in certain things. And, they're not truly learning at that point. If you're giving them all the answers, they're just retaining knowledge. They're not actually learning. And so I'm a firm believer, and I want these guys to be able to leave here. And, when I can look up, I'm doing my infield chart and somebody's in my way in the dugout, and I go, hey, what was that? And a pitcher looks up and go, hey, it was a 4-step 2-hand. It's like, oh, okay, everybody gets it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so those are the things that are fun for me.
I'm the same way. Player comes off the field, the first thing I'll say, if something went wrong, player come off the field, and I'll just look at him and just, okay, but what happened there? Not you did this or you did that, or, let's not do this. No. Hey, bud, what happened? And like you said, if he has a complete understanding of what he was supposed to do, they come right out. Oh, coach, I did this. Okay, bud, no problem. Like you said, let's get him next time. Go get a bat. Very simple.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that, I don't know that as a young coach I did that, right? I was more of giving them answers and you think you have all the knowledge, but it's as I've grown and grown in the game and being a lifelong learner, you realize, hey man, that's not the answer, or at least in our system, it's not. I want guys to truly learn. And at this level, right, what is our goal? Our goal is to develop players to be able to go play at a high level in 4-year baseball. Or, we're one of the only junior colleges in the country that put out draft picks straight out of our institution in the last 2 drafts. We had a third baseman to go to the Yankees last year, our center fielder drafted by Cleveland this year. And so we're trying to get these guys to those levels. And for us, I want them to be prepared to take a job from somebody when they get to that level. And so development doesn't just include, the skill set of the game. It includes the IQ. It includes the savvy and those things. And so we've got to make a well-rounded ball player to help them get to where they want to be.
I understand completely about being a lifelong learner, and the only way I became a better coach was by being a lifelong learner. To this day, I'm going to be 61 years old, and I'm still trying to learn stuff every single day.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go to when you're recruiting. What type of players are you looking for?
It's a great question. We kind of subscribe to the Gary Gilmore Coastal Carolina approach. And I heard Coach say this, I think it was maybe at my first ABCA. I think it was Orlando maybe. Obviously ABCA opens up with the national championship coach. And I remember Gary saying, recruit the athlete, build the ball player. So we recruit athletes and we build ball players. We're looking for what we call it's hard to give it a quantitative answer on this, but we're looking for what we call an OKG, our kind of guy. And we had been saying that for years. I think Deggs, when he was at Sam, kind of coined that OKG phrase, and we've used it since then. And but we need a guy that's well rounded, right? Obviously, we need a guy that can handle his business in the classroom. We've talked about what we expect in the classroom. We want physical athletes. We want guys that are good ball players. We want guys that are well-rounded. Now, I know that sounds like a generic coaching answer. So if you want to break it down a little more and go more hitter pitcher, honestly, what's made us successful in the last few years since we've really turned the corner in about 2020, when this thing started really heading in the right direction, we really started priding ourselves in our offense on our 2-strike approach. And, we're looking for guys, I think it's funny. Maybe I'm different than a lot of people, but I see on Twitter all the time, well, I've never had a college coach ask me for a player's stats. Well, I am. I need to know what he's doing against that competition. I've been around the state of Texas a long time. I coached in 3 out of the 4 high school regions before making the jump to college baseball. And so I know quite a bit about the high school levels here. And I know what, if a guy's at a small school, what he should kind of roughly be hitting if he's potentially a player for us. Same at the bigger schools. Obviously it's better competition when you're at a 6A with a bunch of POs that are straight baseball guys. But I want to know how many times, what a guy's strikeout to walk ratio is in high school. If a guy has a 25 to 5 strikeout to walk ratio in high school, probably not a guy for our offense. Mm-hmm. We're not looking for guys that hit 250 with 8 or 9 bombs. That's not who our offense is. We led the country in triples 2 years ago. We've been top 10 in stolen bases every year. We create a high pressure offense. And so we need athletes. We like runners, and we like guys that don't strike out. We got a guy that's got a 5 to 20 strikeout to walk ratio. And, he hit 400 and he's swiping some bags, and we see, hey man, we go watching, and hey, the contact rate's great. The bat to ball skill's really good. That's a guy that can probably play in our offense. We can teach some things, right? And on the pitching side of things, yeah, everybody talks about 90. Everybody talks about the magic number, and it's a radar gun era and this and that. We had a guy that was 78-80 that closed out the regional championship last year, a low 3-quarter guy. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't have a staff full of those guys, but that guy could really pitch.
Well, that's the whole thing. I'm going to interrupt you there for a second, because that's something that we try and hammer home at the high school level is I really don't give a crap how hard you throw the damn ball if you can't throw a strike. There's a way to pitch. It's not just reaching back and throwing the ball as hard as you can.
Right. And I might get crucified for some of the things I say here when it comes to the pitching by some of those, because, I know there's a lot of people online. Hey, man, if you are 78 miles an hour, you're probably not going to throw in college, or you're not going to throw at a high level. And again, an average starter for us in our conference, this is a really good region. An average starter is probably 89, 92 with a 3-pitch mix. Back end guys in our conference are running it up 96, 97. A stock guy for us is 86, 88, from the right side. And we got a lefty right now that's a returner that's 88, 91. All of those things are great. But for us, as much as it is about, it's about, can you throw multiple pitches? Can you command multiple pitches? And I think that's what, won us a regional championship last year. The wind was blowing in. Our guys filled up the zone, and our offense, was seeing a beach ball. And so, we clicked on all cylinders. And again, I'm not saying we got a staff full of guys that are 80, 82. We don't. It's not at our level. It's not. But we can have a couple of those guys. I mean, that guy that closed it out for us, man, was one of the best relievers in the conference, because he could command 3 pitches, and he was an absolute bulldog on the mound. And, and going into the 9th inning, it was his second time in 3 days to close out a game in that regional tournament. And going into the 9th, he had transferred in from another junior college. And he looked at me and he said, "This is what I came here for. I told you this is what we're going to do." And he went out and he closed it out. And, there's a number of different things, but guys like that, we play with here at Paris, we play with a blue collar type guy, nose in the dirt, probably under recruited a lot of the times, chip on the shoulder. If you look at what we've done on paper, we probably shouldn't do it a lot of years, but our guys are bought in. They're playing for the guy next to them, and we understand that the more games we win, the deeper we go. The deeper we go, the more they get seen. The more they get seen, the more opportunities they're going to have to sign with 4-year schools. And when you can get that culture that nobody cares who gets the credit, that's what we're looking for. And the last few years, that's what it's been. Guys saying, "Hey, man," we talk about it to our guys all the time. We're looking for guys that they're going to go out and compete for a job every day. But if the other guy in your position is out there on the field, you're his biggest fan. And if you're out there, he's your biggest fan. I look back to 2015 when I was at West Alabama, and we won a Gulf South Conference championship. We were ranked as high as 4th in the country. Hosted a regional, lost to Tampa and Joe Urso, who ended up winning it all that year. And we had 2 left fielders. We had a righty and a lefty, man. And, depending on who was on the bump, if there was a lefty on the bump, the righty was in the lineup. And as soon as they went to a righty, here comes our lefty. And those 2 guys, I mean, they were each other's biggest fan. If one of them got on deck and a new pitcher came in, the other guy went in, and that other guy stood right there on that rail and was pulling for him to get the knock. And that was the reason we were so good that year. Nobody cared. They were completely selfless. That's the kind of guys we're looking for. Selfless teammates that are willing to be, and the other aspect of it is being coachable, right? If you got a guy who just thinks they know everything, doesn't want to be coachable, you're not going to make it here. We're going to do everything we can to make it better. But that's a long answer and probably ran around the question a little bit. But there's a lot of different things we look for, but we're looking for the guys that fit us. And that's the other word right there is fit. We tell guys all the time, don't go chase the biggest offer. Don't chase the biggest name. Go find the right fit that is home. And so when we got those guys, and it's been great this first week on campus, seeing this group, the energy and the culture already, and just the chemistry it's been fun to see. And it's one of those you feel like, okay, hey, this could be a really special year for us. If this kind of chemistry is already in the first week, we can hold on to it, then there's going to be a chance that maybe we can do something special again.
Yeah, it's becoming like a little bit of a theme for this show lately because a couple of weeks ago I spoke to Trent Mongero and he considers himself to be a blue collar coach. You just mentioned that you like that blue collar approach, and I think it's important. Those guys that are grinders, those guys that are going to fight it out, those guys that are going to get a base hit and think two out of the box instead of just being satisfied with a single. Those are the guys that we want.
Yeah, and that's 100% right. And like I said earlier, and you said grinder, it is, people, a lot of guys think they've played a lot of baseball. Until you get to junior college, you have no idea. We're playing 25 to 30 games in the fall. We're playing a 56-game regular season schedule plus postseason in the spring. Most of our guys are going out and playing another 40 to 60 games in the summer. On top of that, like I said earlier, you've got weights, you've got study hall, you've got yoga, you've got classes. And so all of those things, you have to be able to grind. It is not for the faint of heart. When we get here in August, they really don't get a break until early November. We'll give them the weekends off in the off season after we've lifted all week. But August, September, October, there's really not any downtime. I mean, we're going 6 to 7 days a week. We're playing 16 to 18 inning games twice a week. And those are, a lot of time there's 4 people in the stands. There's no scoreboard. It's inning 1 through 18. We don't drag it in between. I mean, we just roll. And so, it's 7 hours of just baseball. And in Texas in September, it's 100 degrees. And so, it makes for long days. But, that's what we talk to these guys about is that's the things that we look back and we go through the fall. And the fall here will probably be one of the toughest things you do, both physically and mentally in your life. But for us, when we can look back in the spring and the dog days of it, and we're chasing a conference championship in April and say, hey, these guys can bond together and say, look, we got through the fall. We made it through all of that. This is nothing. We can do this. And so, that's what we're chasing.
Right. And you would know this better than most because you were a high school coach and worked your way through high school up to becoming a college coach. But you would understand this, that, the biggest jump in baseball is from high school to college because it's such a different environment.
Yeah, I mean, it is, right? I mean, the amount of hours that are put in, being away from home for the first time, you're battling the homesickness. You're battling trying to really manage your time. You don't have somebody over your shoulder 24/7 going, hey, you got to be here. Hey, you got to do this. Mom's not waking you up and cooking your breakfast. It's a huge adjustment. And that's what, that can make or break some guys. Sometimes, you find guys just, it's not for them, but it's a major jump. And I think just in time, the time that you have to devote, obviously, this is now somewhat of a job. You're here to get a degree. We talk about it all the time. Paris is a town of 25,000 people. I think it's a great sized town. I mean, I didn't get a stoplight in my hometown until I was in college. When I was at the University of West Alabama, I was 35 minutes from the nearest Walmart. We've got a Walmart here, so I feel like I'm in the big city. But I tell people all the time, it's enough that you got everything you need, but it's not so much that it takes away from what you're here to do. And that's 2 things. And that's get a degree and that's play baseball. And so, it's awesome because with that and not having all these distractions, you'll see, I mean, all throughout the day, every day, when guys aren't in class or in the evening, there's guys hitting in arcades. There's guys down here getting extra work in because that's what they're here to do. And now they're filling their free time with that. We have 27 I was doing the math the other day, 27 out of 32 of our guys got a gym membership to a certain gym in town the other day. And those guys are going and getting an extra lift in every single day. Right. And they're going together. And again, that's the chemistry. That's the camaraderie. They're doing all these things together. They're putting in the work. We talk about it all the time that if you're doing the bare minimum, you're going to get the bare minimum. And you, at this point, you talk about the jump from high school to college. In college, you are directly responsible for your career at that point. If you want to continue to play, if you want to get a starting spot and you want to stay on a roster, it's up to you. There's no more just a good arm, at the high school level, it's 86, 88. A lot of times can get away with a fastball and a good breaking ball, right? They can strike out 90% of the lineup. But now you get up here and every hitter was the 4-hole on their team. Every hitter was all district, all state. You better find a third pitch to go with it if you want to get through some lineups. And so there's a lot of things that go into it, but that jump from high school to college is definitely there's a huge gap.
Right. Now, you had just mentioned something about putting the time in. And we had a guest on maybe a couple of months ago. His name is Eric Holtz. And this is a line that I've stolen from him. It's mine now, where he said there is no way that you could put in 50% of anything and expect to get 100% out.
That's great. I might steal that as well.
So one thing you touched on that you didn't spend a lot of time on, and I want to go to this because I think that this is really cool the way you do this. The two-strike approach, okay? We try and teach our players to win every pitch, regardless of whether on defense or on offense. But there seemed to be a theme of win every pitch with two strikes on you. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so this kind of goes into the infield side of things where I'm just super passionate about this topic because I truly think that this was a turning point for our program. And, you know, over the last 3 years, we've won 110 games. We've played for a regional championship. We've won a regional championship. We've won a conference championship. We've done a lot of things. And in that time, it's offensively, it's because of what we've been able to do. And then on top of that, the culture that happened in that time frame. But in 2000, I'll back it up to 2019. 2019, we had probably a top 20 offense in the country in junior college. And we led the country in strikeouts. And so, that's not who I am. I'm not a feast or famine guy. I'm believing getting on base and creating pressure and doing those things. And so in 2019, I had a lot of great dudes on that team and guys that, come up for alumni weekend and that I'm still really close with. But I had a lot of personalities that I think if I would have tried to, it would have been too late for one. But if I would have tried to implement a two-strike approach, I don't think it would have been met well. I think we would have had some button of heads. And so the fall of 2019 gets here, and in the first offensive meeting, those meetings we were talking about earlier, I said, we had a great offense, but we led the country in strikeouts. I said, and that's asinine. I said, we will not do that again. And so I said, this is, we give what I call offensive freedom with our guys. I don't recruit guys to come in here and change them. I don't recruit guys to just come in here and change a swing. I recruit good hitters. Coach Boone recruits good hitters. You're already a good hitter if you're coming to play here. We're not recruiting bad hitters, Two, you've been swinging the same way you've been swinging for a long time. So, hitting is comfort. Hitting is trust, and it's feel, it's confidence. And so if I start changing you right out of the gate, there's no reason for that. I'm not trying to make a cookie cutter out of you. So we give guys freedom. You swing the way you swing. If you're hitting 380, I'm not touching you. Now we're going to talk approach. We're going to talk, what we're looking for. We're going to talk scouting report and what this pitcher likes to bring. But I'm not changing. Now you're hitting $180, we're going to get on film, and then we're going to look at some things, and we could probably find something, and we'll fix it. But with that being said, I said, hey, look, man, I give you the offensive freedom. I let you be who you are. But the one thing you are absolutely going to do this year is we are going to a unified two-strike approach. I talked to Cheese over at Mississippi State. They had just come off the Natty, I believe, or played in Omaha that year. I don't remember which year it was. But, one of my players had brought up, hey, you see, Mississippi State giving the chest pound to the third base coach. And so I call in and we talk about it. And I said, look, man, if this is good enough for Mississippi State and Omaha, it's good enough for the Dragons in Paris. Okay. And so we implemented, we get up on the dish, we widen out, we're short to the baseball. We expand in and out, not up and down. And one of the things that we do is before that two-strike pitch, you go through you step. Now the pitch clock, we got to be careful, right? We step 1 foot out. we have to really find a routine that is within the time frame of the pitch clock. But you go through your routine, you look at me, and then you pound your chest twice, and I pound it back to you. And what I can really tell when guys are locked in and when they're not, because once I get to know everybody and we've been through a fall and we're into the spring, I know their two-strike approach. There's a lot of time there's a deep breath in there and I'm breathing with them. And, I know. And so if a guy misses something, I'm like, hey, he just, he missed it. And so what that does though for us, the big thing with the chest pounding, it makes us mentally say, hey, this is a two-strike count. I have to lock in. I have to focus. I will not go down. I'm in battle mode. Instead of just stepping in the box like it's another pitch. because our goal as an offense is to get pitch count up. That's what we talk about. We want to chase that starter before the fifth, all right, and then we want to get to the bullpen. And the deeper we get in the bullpen, the better off we are, especially in a 3-game series. And so our goal is to get the pitch count up. So we have a chart, and there's more ways to win than there is to lose in our 2-strike battle. But a foul ball, that's a win for us in a 2-strike count, because now you've got to throw another pitch, all right? A walk, a hit by pitch, an error, right? We talk about it all the time. I would rather you with 2 strikes roll over a weak ground ball to shortstop than to go down looking or swinging. At least now they have to field the ball, they have to throw the ball, they have to catch the ball, and we have forced them to have to do something. We put the pressure on those guys. We got a lot of guys that can run, and guys know it. You know, our center fielder, I mean, the amount of drags and you know, infield singles he could get, you know, that just got drafted by Cleveland. I mean, they knew, hey, if this ball's on the ground in the infield, we better get rid of it. And so we truly talk about the pressure that we can put on guys. And so every pitch that we win is another pitch that guy has to throw. And so in 2021, when we won the conference, we had the fewest strikeouts per ABs in the country. I think we were at like 4.5 a game. This year we were at 5 to 5.5, which was a little higher than 1, and we want to be below 5, but it was still really, really good, right? Yep. When we're talking about in 2019, we were looking at like 10 to 11 a game.
Wow.
And so, you know, every time we put a ball in play, that's a chance that defense has to mess something up. And so we are all about creating pressure. We're a high octane offense, and we're gonna force you to make plays. And so that 2-strike approach, the other thing we do is we force you to get off the knob at least an inch. I like you to go even more, obviously the barrel control, but I force you to get off at least an inch.
That's so great.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's great because that's not taught anymore. Go ahead.
Right, you know, and so what happens is the first couple of weeks you'll see guys thinking they're doing it, and then you watch them sliding down to the knob, and you know, hey man, get off the knob, do this. They don't necessarily fight it; it's just not comfortable. What happens is once they buy in and they really start seeing the success of it, and it's great because our sophomores come back and they're like, "Hey man, this works." Like, you know, one of the things that I love is, you know, I talk to a lot of guys in the SEC, the Big 12 coaches that one of the things they'll tell you, and people don't realize this, hey, man, the first report that our analytics guys pull are walk to strikeout ratio. And so we want to see if a guy's getting on base. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if he's swinging and missing 50 times a year, he better be hitting 20 pumps. You know, and so a lot of people don't realize that walk to strikeout ratio is huge. And then we get that comment a lot from Division I coaches. They go down our roster and they go, man, you guys, your walk to strikeout is great. I mean, we had a 1-to-1 as a team in 2021, which is phenomenal. And so, you know, we focus on all of those things. And what happens is guys it's uncomfortable at first. Once they start buying in, they realize, hey, man, this is a huge asset to me. They realize, you know, finally they'll run one out of the yard in a 2-strike approach and go, oh, I didn't lose the power that I thought I was going to lose here. I still put a good swing on it. I got a good pitch that he made a mistake on. And then the other thing, you know, is what it's really made for me that makes it better is now you get up there and a lot of times and you get that 0-0 fastball right over the white and you go, I missed my pitch. And the rest of the at-bat, you're going, I should have got that fastball. I missed my pitch. Now what happens is I'm as comfortable in a 2-strike count as I am 0-0. So if I miss that pitch, I go, oh, well, I'll get another one. I'm as good with 2 strikes as I am 0-0. And so it just allows you a comfort level to say, hey, man, I'm good. I'm good with 2 strikes. I mean, we had a young man named Sam Creed on that 20 and 21 team that hit leadoff, a scrappy little lefty. I mean, he wore garden gloves as his batting gloves, and he would choke up halfway up the handle. And, man, he'd lead off a game, and the first at-bat of game, he fouls off, 10 pitches, and it's a 14, 15 pitch at-bat, and then he walks, and you're like, hey, man, he just used an inning's worth of that guy's pitches in the leadoff at-bat. And so, those type of things are things how we put pressure on guys and what we preach, but that's something that we will work on, that 2-strike approach every day, whether it's in the cage on a tee, whether it's in a round on BP, but it's something that, we have to live by. And since we have, it's really been, it's been big for us. There's not a lot of guys, I think maybe 1 or 2 guys in the last 3 years has reached 30 strikeouts in a season, and so, if you can do that, then you have a chance to get in our lineup, getting on base, moving. All of those things are things we're going to be able to produce a lot of runs with.
Wow, that number is unbelievable. 30 strikeouts, no more than 30 strikeouts in a season. That's incredible. And you guys are around 60
guys over the last years.
Yeah, you guys are around 60 games, right?
Yeah, so 56 regular season, and I think we played 35. So we played probably 61 games last year. So
wow, that's a phenomenal number. Wow, I mean that's great. I have to say that the routine you have of patting your chest and the coach giving the same signal back, I love it. Clears the head, makes you aware of the task at hand. I mean, let's face it, and I've always said this, hitting most of the game, but hitting in particular is mental.
For sure. Yeah, and going back to that walk to strikeout and those things, I mean, our third baseman was drafted by the Yankees 2 years ago. He's in A-ball with them right now. He had and now don't get me wrong, he's uncanny, right? But he had 8 strikeouts and 256 at-bats.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, that's what got him drafted, right? I mean, the bat to ball skill was there. He was physical, and it's like, hey, man, this guy does not strike out. Our center fielder that got drafted this year, I mean, in college, he was his 2 years here was probably a 2.5 or 3-1. Walk the strikeout guy, plus runner, Gold Glover in center field, left-handed hitter. So, a lot of things that worked out for him, but neither one of those guys struck out a lot. And that's one of the things that clubs loved about him. Every club will tell you, man, our analytics reports we run, that guy pops up because he doesn't strike out. And so, it wins ball games. It gets you seen. There's obviously a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot of things that other factors that play in as well, but that's definitely a huge plus.
Another thing, when coaches make mistakes, because we all know that we're not perfect, we all make mistakes.
Yep.
How important is it for the coach to own those mistakes?
I'm glad you asked this question. I honestly was just talking to somebody about this the other day, and our guys will tell you, I mentioned it in our first meeting, we want guys to be grown men, right? And we asked them to take ownership. We asked them, I tell them, hey, man, if you screw up, I want to know about it from you. I don't want to know about it from somebody else. I promise you things are going to be a lot better if you can man up and come tell me, hey, coach, I messed up. This is what I did. It's huge. I think it shows some vulnerability. I think it shows that you trust them. I think that they understand the human aspect of it, and they go, okay, hey, man, if coach is willing to do that, you're asking these guys to do it. You got to do it. I happened to me last year, right? I think runner coming in a third, and I got a little lazy. I didn't get big, and right there, and he rounds the bag. We get thrown out at home. Came in the clubhouse afterwards. I said, hey, man, I screwed that one up. I said, I got caught at the ball. I didn't get big. I got lazy right there in that situation, and I cost us a run. I said, that's on me. I think it's really important. I think that guys have to know that, hey, we're all in this thing together. And, I think too many times coaches take this aura about them that they're, it's their way or the highway, and they don't do anything wrong. And it's kind of the elephant in the room when you don't talk about it, right? Like, hey, man, well, he didn't feel like he did, he didn't do that there. I know there's obviously, if I've always been a firm believer in taking ownership and responsibility of your mistakes. And, so if I've done that, whether it be in a game or, hey, man, I did this and I shouldn't have, that's on me, and I'll apologize to a guy in front of everybody. Hey, man, that mistake was on me. And so I think it's a very important thing in the clubhouse to build culture and respect. I think that they know when you're willing to own yours, that there's another level of respect there. We talk about it all the time. We break it out every day to family, and this truly is a family. And, we talk about it all the time, right? Like families they've got tiffs, and, you don't always get along with your siblings. When we talk about the team as a whole and their brothers, we're like, hey, man, you don't always get along with your siblings, but, you love them and you do anything for them. And same thing, I own it, do the same thing with my kid at home, with the boys. If hey, daddy shouldn't have done that. So, and I think that goes a long way in also showing them that, hey, man, that's what it looks like, and that's how I want to be. You get out in the real world. I think it's honestly in the professional world, it's the same thing. There's been times in my professional career where somebody's a superior has come in to say something to me, and I go, yeah, I did that. I screwed up. I own it. And it kind of takes them off guard. Yeah. They're like,
absolutely.
What? And I'm like, I did it. I messed up. And I say, whatever reprimand you need to give me, give me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, well, okay. And there's not enough people that do it anymore. And so I think it does catch people off guard when you do that. But long answer short, I think it's huge. I think that, we're all in this together. Coaches aren't perfect. And if you try to portray that you are, then I think you're going to create more faction than you are trust.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And you even made reference to it, that especially nowadays, because I find that the younger guys, teenagers this year, they are not quick, we'll say. They're not quick to admit when they made a mistake, or, there's always a reason. There's always, I don't know if I want to use the word excuse so much, but we'll just use the word reason. But I think that if we could teach them, like you said, that we're not perfect, and hey, guys, I made a mistake. I own that. It's on me. Let's go. And the other thing that I think that it teaches players, which is really important, is that through our actions, we'll be showing them that we made a mistake, we put it behind us, and we're moving forward, because that's something that they really need to know.
Absolutely.
So let's go on to something else here that I love this. So we had a gentleman on, again, this is probably last year, and he's from the Excel Sports Institute, and he was talking about the difference between transactional and transformational coaches. Now, from what I understand, you are more of the transformational type of coach. So let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, I actually have on the bill of my cap underneath, I have TNT, transformational, not transactional, written on the bill of my cap. And, that goes back to a long time ago. And I think that if you're looking for what can I get out of this, then you're wrong, right? As a young coach, I chased rings, and I got some, and very fortunate to be a part of some great teams. But, it was always about, I've always loved my guys. I've always taken care of my guys. I've always built, really strong relationships with them. But I think I worried too much about chasing those things and not, hey, man, this is what this is really about. For us as junior college coaches, I want to win it every year, right? And we're knocking on the door of getting back to Grand Junction for the first time in decades. We're on the verge of crushing through that goal. But for me, the wins are when I can watch a super regional on ESPN and one of our guys is on the mound and, he's throwing in the ninth inning against Bandy and go, hey, man, that's our guy. That's our guy right there. That's a dragon. Those are the wins for me. The wins for me are, when in June, one of our guys from the 21 team got married and 23 out of 28 guys on the roster were there.
Right.
Those are wins. And I know a lot of people probably go, oh, man, that's Twitter clickbait. He's just, it's not who. No, man, it really is. I think if you ask any of our guys, it's crazy because, junior college, there's so many things that you don't have that all these other places have. And we got guys that'll go to a Power 5, and we got guys that'll go play pro ball and do these things. And they'll tell you, man, the best 2 years of my life were at Paris. And I literally, you could survey our guys, and the majority of them would tell you that. And that's the thing for me that makes it worthwhile. When somebody does something great and it blows up in the alumni group me, hey, man, congrats. All those guys still talking years down the road. That's what it means to me. I don't know necessarily as a young coach I understood it as much. I think even more so in the last 3 years since I've had kids, has that just even amplified more. But, I've always been a firm believer in we're trying to make these men, as much as we're here to build ball players, we're here to build better young men.
Yes.
I want guys who are successful out in the real world. I want guys who are great husbands, great fathers, that are CEOs, that down the road, I get guys that'll, hey, coach, I had one last year. You used to tell us if you take care of the little things, the big things like winning are going to take care of themselves. And I was like, yeah. He said, hey, I'm going up for a supervisor position at my job, and I'm creating a presentation. Can I use that quote? Absolutely, man. Hey, coach, I was late that one day to practice, and I'll tell you what, I've never been late to work after I was late that one day, and creating those kind of habits for the real world. Baseball is going to be done one day, but you're going to have to do a lot of other things in life. And so we want to make sure that you're prepared for that. And, there's a lot of things, the conversations you have with some of these guys, it's crazy to know what they're going through. And I'm fortunate enough that, most guys feel the comfort level and know that we have an open door, that if they need to come talk about something, they can talk about it. And some of the things that, guys are going through that, you never know. And I think sometimes we look at guys and we go, man, what's his problem, man? What's going on? And you just kind of, you don't want to put it off. And it's like, hey, man, sometimes just going over there and putting your arm around them. Hey, man, you all right today? What's going on? Sometimes that's all it takes. And hey, man, it's just been a tough day. This is what's going on. Well, hey, man, we're here for you. Let's if you need to go do this. And we're a firm believer, in taking care of family always comes first. So if a guy comes up, man, hey, this or that's going on, we're gonna let you go take care of your family stuff. Baseball is always going to be here when you get back.
Yeah.
Family is first. And so transformational, not transactional. It's not what I can get out of these guys, and there's plenty of places I feel like are that way, hey, what can I get? What can I get out of this? And it's just not who we are. And again, I think that comes back to, like I said earlier, I think winning is a byproduct. When you take care of people and those people take care of you, and you're in this thing for each other, then I think, that's when you really start to see things take off.
At the end of the show, and I end every single show this way, and it's a very simple thing, and I'm sure you've heard this phrase many, many times: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
How much you care. Absolutely.
And I live by that. And, the proof in the pudding is, I've coached many, many kids throughout the years, and I'll still every now and then get a text message, hey, coach, I'm struggling. Could we talk? Now, these are guys that I haven't coached in 5, 6 years, maybe even longer. And, there's no greater feeling than knowing that you're actually helping this kid.
No, that's the truth. And, knowing that they trust you enough to reach out to you in those situations, feels like, hey, we did something right when they were here. And so, and I'll be honest with you, not everybody gets it. We are, this is a very tough place to succeed. It's very, like I said, the fall is very hard. It's a grind. And sometimes it's not for people. And so maybe they don't see what it truly is. But when you get to the end of the year with that 30 guys, and, we talk about it every year. When we leave after the postseason's over, no matter if we have a reunion down the road or one of those teams inducted into the Hall of Fame, somebody's not going to be able to make it, whether it be a family issue or kids or whatever's going on. So we're getting ready to leave that clubhouse the last time. It's hey, this is the last time we will all ever be together. And it really just kind of sinks in, and the last few years we break it out that last time and nobody leaves for 2 or 3 hours. They just sit here, and it's like, man, 2020, right, when COVID hit, was a hard one. We had to get off. We were on our way to a game. We turned the bus around. We came back. And back, I'm telling guys, hey, man, this is going to be like the swine flu in 2008. We're going to be back in a couple weeks. No big deal. But everybody's crying, and in the pit of your stomach, you're going, man, if this is the last time this group's ever together, this is not the way it's supposed to go. And that group, I really think 2020 is the group that, we were like 17-3 outside of one series going into a conference and sitting at the top of conference. And I think that was the group, in my opinion, that really turned the culture for us. And the fact they never got to experience what that dog pile felt like, and I think they would have, But to leave it the way we did, and just seeing every guy in that clubhouse crying, like, man, it's not supposed to go like this. Yeah. You knew the relationships that they built, the chemistry they built with each other. And those are the things that, really just hit home for you, is that these guys know that, man, it was hard, but we did it together, and we accomplished a lot of great goals. And so, it's something that's just they forever have to hold on to.
That's fantastic. I love that. So in the beginning, we talked a little bit about, and I said that I'm a strong advocate for junior college baseball. Why don't you give me your, obviously you're going to have a stronger opinion than I do because you're in it, but talk to us a little bit about junior college baseball and how this is a good avenue for players to take.
Yeah, so give you my best sales pitch on JUCO, huh?
Yes, that's what I want.
I'm obviously a very big proponent and advocate for it. I think in today's day and age, with the transfer portal, and we're seeing just how many things that's creating, and NIL and portal and all of this stuff. If you take two players in the same class, right, and player A and player B, and player B, he goes to a big 4-year university, and player A goes to junior college. Player B, unless he is just a stellar talent, is probably going to redshirt, with all those 22 and 23-year-old portal guys, while player A goes over here to junior college and he gets 60 to 70 at-bats in the fall season. Then say, let's just go with spring season. Let's say he gets 150 at-bats his freshman year. Player B redshirted, okay? Sophomore year, next year, player B over at that university, he gets, let's say, 75 at-bats. And now player A at the junior college is starting every day, and he gets 250 at-bats. Now, player A, the junior year, he goes over to that same institution that player B is at. He's got 400 at-bats underneath his belt to player B's 75. He's proven. He's been through the ringer. He's grinded it out. He's had, his 2 full fall seasons. He's had, he's played 150-plus college games, and then probably summer ball on top of that. So now he's going over there, and he's going to take that job from player B when player B finally thinks it's his year. It's an opportunity to go in and get at-bats right away. Now, I love when people kind of think, oh, well, this player, he's good. He'll just go start every day at junior college. Come see what we're putting out. Right. I mean, when you roll out, and we're, across the infield, we're 6'3", 215, 6'1", 185, 6 foot, 200, 6'4", 225. We're big, we're physical. It's not saying that you're going to be the everyday guy as a freshman, but you're going to get those at-bats your freshman year, most likely. You're going to get some time. You got a chance to try to go take that job, right, and get more at-bats. As well as, on the flip side of that, on the academic side, you got a chance to go get your feet wet academically as much as you do athletically. So, I came from a town where I graduated with 133 people. And when I got to A&M, my freshman biology class, I had 500 people in it. It was bigger than my high school. And so, I was lost. You go to junior college and your classes are 25 to 30. They're similar to high school. You have a relationship with the professor that you get to build and on a first name basis. And so you get a chance to not just be thrown into this world of academics. It's tough, but it's for me, it's about the opportunity to go get the experience and potential playing time right out of the gate. It's typically a lot more cost efficient. A lot of private universities, even after the great academic money, you're still paying 25 to 30K. Whereas, it's a lot more financially feasible at the junior college level. It lets you stay draft eligible every year. If you're a potential pro prospect, you're going to be draft eligible both years you come out of junior college. And so I think it's an avenue that people, a lot of times there's a skewed perspective on, like I said, I'll just go to junior college and I'll play every day. Well, that's not the case, but you have a chance to go in there and compete for a job against 18 to 20-year-olds where, going in there against those 22 and 23-year-olds that have been in a system for 4 to 5 years, you're probably not going to have as much success with. It's a lot of time you go there, you redshirt, you bounce back. A lot of those guys end up at a junior college anyway, their sophomore year. Well, they still lost that freshman year when that other freshman was getting all those at bats. You know, they were redshirting over here before they went to junior college. It's an opportunity to. I think you appreciate things more when you go the junior college route. You know, I tell guys all the time, I'm not a used car salesman. I won't guarantee you something that I can't. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey man, you're going to be our everyday guy if you come here when I give you the recruiting pitch, because anybody that is telling you that, they're lying to you, because if you're not playing good, you're not going to be their everyday guy, right? But, you know, for us, I'll guarantee you two things. One, you're going to be tougher because it's going to be a grind, like we've talked about plenty throughout this episode. And then two, you're going to learn to appreciate things more. When you've rode, you know, 2 deep on a bus, sleeping 4 to a hotel, eating PB&Js, and now you get to that big time university and you're flying on a charter jet to a super regional, eating a steak dinner, and you got, you know, student managers taping your bat grip on for you. You know, you are thankful for those things because of where you came from, and you respect them. And, you know, for us, the guys that want to play pro ball and have the opportunity to do so, everybody thinks pro ball is sexy. It's not really sexy until you get into the higher ranks. You know, you're getting up into AA and AAA. A lot of times rookie ball is you know, it's a lot like junior college. You know, I'll tell you this, in the last few years, things have gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of teams that have built apartments at their complex, and things are moving in the right direction finally at that level. But you've been through that grind. You know, I had a player call me last year and say, hey, you know, you always told us that, you know, pro ball was going to be like junior college all over again. I'm sleeping 5 guys to a one room apartment. He's like, you know, these other guys are moaning and crying. He goes, I feel like I'm back at Hatcher Hall. He goes, now don't get me wrong, I want to get to AA as soon as I can, but this is no big deal for me. You know, so it kind of gives you an opportunity to get adjusted to what that pro ball lifestyle may be like a little bit. More so than that guy who went to the SEC school for 4 years and all he's ever known is that life. You know, it's almost a step back a lot of times. But I just think there's so many benefits to the junior college level that people may not realize, and they may not realize the talent level. You know, I mean, if you look at it, you know, in our 8 years, 100% of our sophomores have graduated with an associate's degree. 100% of our sophomores have had offers to play 4-year baseball, and almost 85% of those have gone on to play Division I baseball. And so, you know, a lot of times at the junior college level, you're really playing against Division I talent. You know, maybe it's a guy that just lacks one tool, you know, or, hey, man, he's really speedy, he's got a good glove, but, you know, he just doesn't hit for average enough right now. Or, you know, hey, he's got to get a little better defensively. But a lot of the times you're playing against, you know, that caliber of talent at the junior college level. And, you know, for us, we want guys that they have bigger, and I say it this way, we understand that Paris Junior College is a stopping point. I don't want guys that just want to play 2 more years of baseball. We want guys that have bigger goals and aspirations. And we just ask you to be the best you can be at PJC. The rest is going to take care of itself. And so, you know, we want those type of guys to come in here that have bigger aspirations, and that's our job, is to get them out. And so I think that a lot of guys will tell you that when you get to that 4-year, you get out, you know, there's kind of that, you get in the clubhouse at your 4-year school, and those JUCO guys kind of tend to, you know, congregate together because they got a lot in common, and guys are kind of cutting corner eyes and going, man, those are those JUCO guys. Those dudes are dirtbags, man. They'll come take your job. Watch out for them. You know, they've been through the ringer. And so, you know, I just think that it's a great avenue for a lot of players for a lot of different reasons. But it's something that, you know, I'm very passionate about. And I think just over the last few years, you've seen junior college just, you know, advance even further with social media and the coverage of, you know, there's so many now outlets that are covering junior college on a consistent basis. And there's so much more information out there about it, more so than there used to be of, hey man, the only reason you go to junior college is because you don't have good grades or you're trying to get drafted. You know, it's kind of what it used to be on the stigma of it, but it's not so much anymore. There's a lot of talent at this level spread across the country.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is reaching the parents, because whether it be Little League, travel baseball, high school baseball, what I find is that convincing the parents of what's best for the player is a very difficult thing to do. And I'm going to use an example of something that's happening right now with one of my former players. Now, I coached him probably maybe about 3 or 4 years ago in travel baseball. He went on, you know, he's moving into his senior year in high school right now, and he's a very effective pitcher. He's sitting about 78, touching about 80, but effective. He can pitch. And they're pushing and pushing and pushing D1, D2, D1, D2. And I keep telling his dad, no, let's send him to a junior college. Let him hone his skills there. He's going to get bigger, stronger, faster. And then if he wants to go on and play at these other levels, then he can. And I got to tell you, Clay, it is so hard to convince a parent that that's a good road to go down.
Yeah, it is, and I think a big part of it too, with a lot of kids and players these days, is being honest with yourself about the level that you're capable of playing at. Everybody wants to go play Division I ball, right? Everybody wants to go play pro baseball, but if that's where you're at velocity wise, knowing, hey, that's probably not going to be an option, right? And so finding somewhere that you can go develop and then seeing what your options can be later. And there is, there's plenty of times that, even at our level, guys will call us about a guy and we go watch. We're like, hey man, come watch us play and see what we're putting on the field, and know what we're capable of doing with guys. But I think, yeah, it's great when you get families in that go, hey, we're all about the JUCO route. Like we've seen his travel ball buddies or his high school buddies go to the Division I and then get cut right before, because all these portal guys, or they get dropped in December. And that's not what we want to do. We want to go play. We want to play every day. We want to try to be an everyday guy at junior college and then go play at that 4-year. And so to see that, thought process is always nice, because a lot of times it really is like you're talking about it's convincing them. And a lot of times, with us, it tends to be, an high academic guy. And right, sometimes it's like, hey man, guy's got a 35 ACT. Like, hey bud, you probably shouldn't go junior college. That I'd love to have you, but you're going to get this money over here at this school with that ACT. And so it's being honest with them there as well. But I think that you gotta realize where you're capable of going to and what level you're capable of playing at, and then trying to see what could be next.
Well, that all comes down to something that I believe in, where as a coach, I would consider myself to be brutally honest. So I will tell a parent, you're being unrealistic. He is not a X level player. He fits here. And like you said, to convince him of that, well, that's a different story, but I'm going to tell you how it is, and then you do what you want with it. And that's pretty much what it comes down to.
Definitely.
So, but I got to tell you, Coach, this was a great conversation. I could probably keep going with you for another 2 hours. But I know you probably
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know you've probably got things to do. So I'm assuming that you'll be in Dallas in January, right?
I will, yes, sir.
It's like right in your backyard.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
it's an hour and a half down the road, so we'll definitely be there.
Well, I'll definitely seek you out when we get there and come and say hello. And I really, really appreciate you coming on. I know that your time is valuable, and this has been great. Why don't you just give a little bit about contact information? So if people want to contact you, maybe they're interested in Parrish Junior College. Oh, wait a minute. I have another question.
Yeah.
Parrish Junior College, where do you get your players from? Do you have like dorms and stuff where you could take players from different parts of the country, or are they just pretty much local guys?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, right? So a large majority of our roster is all across the state of Texas, right? There's a very high level of talent throughout the state. And so a large majority of our roster comes from Texas, but every year we've got a handful of out-of-state guys. We've had guys from Washington to California to the East Coast to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. We've had guys from kind of all over. And so, we try to go find the best players and the best fit for us. And so that's an out-of-state guy. It's an out-of-state guy. We obviously try to recruit Texas as heavily as we can, because there's just such a – the talent. There's so many talented players in the state, but we do get out of state as well. We have dorms. All our guys live on campus. And it's a nice junior college campus. You get everywhere you want to go in 5 minutes. I think the dorms for us is a big part of why we have the chemistry we do because those guys are together all the time. You know, they live together in the dorm. They go to classes together. They eat together in a caf. And so I think that's a big piece of our chemistry is being able to have on-campus housing and all our guys being on one wing of the dorm together. But, yeah, we recruit from all over. You know, we're looking for the best players and the best fit for us. That means it's a guy from out of state. It's a guy from out of state. You know, but I'd tell you probably usually about 90 to 95% of our roster is from Texas, and then we go pick the guys that we like from other states and bring those guys in as well.
That's great to know because, again, if we get players here in New York, which I know is a very far distance, it would be nice to send them down to you.
Absolutely. Weather's a lot warmer down here, I can tell you that.
Oh, my God.
It gets play a little bit more probably.
I could tell you our spring seasons here are absolutely brutal.
No doubt. You know, that's a lot of times those Division I's up north will pay a lot more for a kid from the South, you know, whether it be junior college or high school, because they're getting to play year round. It's great competition down here. And so they know that those guys, you know, typically have a lot more experience and have been playing, you know, longer seasons throughout the years. So,
yeah. So, okay. So let's run through your contact information, and then I'll let you go enjoy your family for the rest of the day.
Yes, sir. So you can find me on Twitter at Coach Cox19, Coach Cox19, or my email address is ccox@Paris, PARISJC.edu. And you know, all my contact information is on our Paris JC website as well. So, you know, I love connecting, and feel free to reach out, whether it be about, you know, something we talked about today or whether it be about players that may potentially be a fit for us. Sometimes, you know, I also serve as the athletic director and kinesiology program coordinator. So there's a lot on the plate. So sometimes I may miss an email or a DM, but if I do, feel free to hit me up again. You're not bothering me. You know, I might have just missed it in all the hustle and bustle. I know it took us a little while to connect, and, you know, I apologize, but I'm glad we finally got to make it happen. And, again, same kind of thing, right? You reached back out, and I was like, man, I had you on the list to call for a while now. And so, you know, I'm glad we were able to do that. But, yeah, you know, feel free to reach out, whether it be you want to just talk some shop or you potentially have some players for us. We would love to connect.
That's great. The other thing, too, I want people to understand, and maybe you could go through this real quick, too, is your infield U. We didn't touch on that.
Yes. No. So, you know, we started Infield U. It's an infield specific camp that we do to try to hone some defensive skills. And, you know, COVID hit, and we had two babies in that time frame, and so we, you know, kind of took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're about ready to ramp it back up and get going. But, you know, for us, we talk about it a lot, right? When you see players going and working on their game, what are they going to work on?
Hitting.
They're going to the cages, right? And so that's everybody goes to the cages. I have just such a passion and a love for infield play that I wanted to be able to share that with younger players. And so, you know, our camps are specific for infield, and they range a great range from 8 to 18 years old. We have something for everybody. But, you know, for me, it's awesome when we go host these camps and you see how many players want to come out and work on their defensive skills, you know, and I think that, especially when you start talking about, you know, premier positions like shortstop, right? You got to be able to defend it. And so we want to be able to help that. A lot of the things that we do at the camp are things that you can take away and do on your own, you know, a lot of drills and progressions that you can work, you know, with a buddy or with mom or dad or by yourself with a wall. And so there's a lot of things we do that, you know, you can take and do those things. And, you know, we've got a lot of great videos and some things that we're hopefully trying to put together to make it even more accessible and more of a benefit for those that want to be involved. And so, yeah, that's at Infield U on Twitter. We're looking to ramp those camps back up and get excited for that and helping guys, you know, get better defensively.
Yeah, so I encourage everybody out there to look that up, infieldu.com, and that'll be something that I'm sure will help you. So, Coach, I can't thank you enough. This has been a pleasure, And, like I said, I look forward to seeing you in Dallas, say hello, shake hands, and maybe talk a little bit more.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't thank you enough for having me. It's been great. Could talk shop all day long. And so this is, I thought you had some great questions and some that I haven't had before. And so it's been fun sharing, and I look forward to getting to see you in Dallas and talk some more.
Great. The pleasure was all mine. Take care, Coach, and enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye now.
So, all right. That was our conversation with Clay Cox. What'd you think, Coach?
To be honest with you, Dave, I thought it was going to be a good conversation before I even hit that record button. But I got to say, it was a fantastic conversation. It was more than I expected.
For somebody who has accomplished as much as he has in a short period of time, he's not an old guy like us. I'm not sure. I'm thinking he's in his 30s still. He has accomplished an awful lot. And the first thing that struck me about him was his humility. I think it might have been the first thing he talked about was saying that he can't take credit for it. It's all about the boys and about his staff. And that's not something you hear very often.
Yeah. And, let's face it, most successful coaches are humble like that. And I think that that's what makes them successful. I mean, think about it. If it's all about you, and we talk about this in many different instances, that people are going to pick up on that. Whereas if you're a person that is all about the team as a whole, and yeah, maybe his success, he's in his mind a little part of, and the whole team is the ones that should be celebrated, those are the guys that I feel usually succeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we talk about plenty of times, the whole balance of the ego. You have to have an ego to do this. To lead anybody, you have to have some ego. But when it gets out of control and it is all about you and what you've done and how you've created this machine, that's where it becomes a turnoff to people. And is that somebody, especially in this day and age, this is not like it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. In this day and age, is that somebody who kids are going to want to go bust their ass and play for?
Right. Yeah. And really, I mean, let's face it, he's a good leader. Otherwise, he wouldn't have all of those accolades. So, there's a lot of it that has to do with his approach to coaching and the way he leads his team. That's evident. So, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to really hammer home is everybody has heard me talk about the importance of JUCO college and how I feel that junior colleges are a good avenue for players to take. And Coach Cox was our first JUCO coach. And I think he hit it out of the park. I mean, I think that people will now understand how exciting junior college can be.
Well, yeah, and how much help it can be in terms of your development. You look at it, they've had a couple of people get drafted straight into the majors, if that's your goal. They've had countless people that have moved on to a Division I or Division II school. Just last year, 27 players were academic All-Americans.
Yeah.
You don't think that looks good on a player's resume when he's applying for the next step? I mean, that's amazing. What do you say? He has 30-something kids on the roster?
35.
35 and 27 were academic All-Americans. Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. So, everybody out there should take notice. Junior college is a great avenue. Everybody poo-poos it. Everybody wants to, D1, D2, this, that, and the other thing. I don't know. I mean, to me, especially in this day and age with the transfer portal, I don't see why every high school player wouldn't want to go to JUCO first and get that experience. I mean, Coach Cox explained it greatly when he said that, if you go to a 4-year school right off the bat, you're going to get redshirted. You're going to be playing behind other players, or I shouldn't even say playing. You're going to be sitting behind other players. You're not going to get many at-bats. But meanwhile, these guys that are coming up from junior college have, hundreds of at-bats under their belt already at the college level. And I know me as a coach, I'm going to take that into consideration.
And the competition level is, it's probably close to on par with a D2, with an average D2 school, if not better. I mean, you do have the age thing, but at that level, it's probably not as big of a deal.
Yeah. And I mean, and also what people need to understand is that there's D1, D2, and D3 levels of junior college. So in the case of Parish Junior College, they're a D1 junior college program. They play in a very tough conference. And what better place to get exposure and get experience?
Right. And like you said, when we talk about experience, there is nothing to replicate live reps.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
the one thing that I'm really disappointed in, and it's my fault, so I have to push the door open for Coach Cox to possibly come back, because he is a great infield instructor. And I wanted to get to it, but we got caught up in the conversation that kept going and going and going, and I actually was never able to get to that subject. But I would love to have him back on to talk about his infield drills and the way he works with his infielders. And there's just a lot of stuff there that we never even got to. And I'm really disappointed, because it would have been good for our listeners.
Well, yeah, and that's a different type of direction. It's one of those things where there is just, I guess, not infinite, but oh yeah, there's an infinite amount of things that you can talk to with an experienced coach like that. So you can't cram it all into an hour. As you see, you had trouble getting to even close to that point on this one. So definitely a candidate to have back, and would certainly look forward to doing that. You know, one of the things that you guys did talk about was in terms of effort, and you talked about, if you don't put in 100% effort, how would you expect to get 100% results? And that's something that obviously I believe in. We want everybody to have positive mental attitude at all time, PMA, 100% effort at all times, and good things will happen. Now, I could tell you were itching to say something during your talk with him, as you kind of skated around it a few times, but go ahead and give us your final thoughts there, Coach.
Well, actually, I don't know if I skated around it. I think I actually said it at one point, but Coach Cox is one of those coaches, and we touched upon it during the conversation when he said he has TNT written in his hat, which is transformational, not transactional. So what better sign is there from a coach to tell you that he understands people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.